Hey everyone. Ever wondered how to turn the humble turnip into amazingly irresistible pickles? Today, I'll be harvesting these beauties right here and popping back into the kitchen to share a fantastic Middle Eastern recipe. You ever wondered what those pink pickles are whenever you've eaten a Middle Eastern dish or a Lebanese dish? I'm going to show you how to make those today. It's super simple and they're so delicious. So stick around and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, we are harvesting turnips today, mainly because I've got some that have started bolting, and I'd rather harvest them now, even if some of them might be a little on the small side. Since we're going to be pickling them and chopping them up, the size doesn't really matter. So let's harvest some turnips. And I spotted this one. This is probably the biggest one. And all you do, try to grab the top of it and just pull. It's as easy as that. It's not difficult at all. This variety is the purple top white globe turnip. I've been growing these for years and they're always amazing. They grow really well for me in my area. But I'm tempted to leave some of them in, some of the smaller ones. Now, let me see on this side. That was one patch. There's another patch here that has some good size ones. And I just leave them in my harvest bowl. Let's see. There's a couple of good ones here. Another one. They're a little bit small. Usually they get to at least this size, sometimes a little bigger. But I don't mind harvesting them at this size because, like I said, we're making pickles, and I'm going to be slicing them into little batons, little sticks. Let's see over here. Here's another good one. That's probably enough for the amount of pickles that I'm planning on making today. Let me just do a quick peek. If there's anybody that's on the largish side. There's one. Somebody in here. Lift up the camera a bit. Let's see if there's any over here. This can probably be left in. This one's not bad. That's a nice one. I think that's going to be it for now. That's a weed. Don't mind that. Yeah, the rest are kind of small, so I'm going to leave the rest in. Let them keep growing a little bit longer. Let me show you what we've got today. So this is what we're going to be working with. And then I'm going to pop into the kitchen and we're going to make pickles. Hey guys, we're back in the kitchen. And I've washed the turnips. I've cut off the tops, the greens, and I've just gave them a bit of a wash. And for this recipe, what you're going to need is white vinegar. I'm using pickling vinegar, but white vinegar, that's what the recipe calls for. I'll include the link down below to the recipe that I'm following for this. Recipe calls for kosher salt. If you have pickling salt, that would probably work as well. 2 bay leaves, 2 cloves of garlic, and a beet. And this is the secret ingredient to turning these turnips pink, that famous pink color. If you've ever had, like Middle Eastern food or Lebanese or whatever, and you've wondered what those pink pickles are that are so delicious, it's turnips and it's a beet that's hidden in there that turns the color pink. So we're going to make those today. And they're fantastic. And we're going to make them today. We'll make the brine on the stove in a second. And it takes like minutes to make all of this. And then you just let them sit in a container. I'm using this just because this is what I have, but you can use a glass jar or whatever you have on hand. You leave them on the counter for 5 days. And then you start tasting them to see if they're to your liking. And maybe within a day or two, you're going to start to see the liquid turn bright, bright pink. And by the time that 5 day is done, usually I wait about within 1 to 2 weeks. They're tangy enough to get to my liking because we like it a little bit spicier, and that tang comes from the garlic. The bay gives it that flavor. The beet gives it that pink color, and it's just so good. And the vinegar obviously gives it that pickled zing as well. So let's get started. I've got 3 cups of water on the stove. I haven't turned it on yet. All we need to add are the bay leaves, and I've already measured out my salt. It's a 1/3 cup of salt. I'm going to pop that in there, and then while that's going, and what we want to do is just turn it on medium and just wait for the salt to dissolve. That's it. That's all we're waiting for. And you'll see it because right now it's cloudy. I've just put the salt in, and I'm just going to let that sit there. Let it go. In the meantime, we're going to prepare our veg, and I'm going to get this out of the way. All right. What did I use this for? Oh, this is going to be for the vinegar we add later. Okay, so let's get going. The first thing we're going to do, and the garlic, I mean, it's just for seasoning. You're not eating the garlic, so it doesn't have to be any kind of fancy chopping. So I'm just going to cut the end off, peel it, and then we'll just, cut it in half. I'm still going to crush it because it makes it easier to peel. And then we'll pop it into the jars at the end. It's just use it as a seasoning. And when we put these in the jar, I mean, you can try to eat the garlic. It's going to be strong once they've been pickled for a week. It's going to be pretty strong. But by all means, if that, whatever floats your boat, you want to eat strong pickled garlic, go right ahead. It's probably going to be pink too, if I recall. All right, so this is done. I'm just going to cut them in half. So those are ready. I'll do the beet. I'm going to do the beet last because I'm going to turn red. So let's trim all these turnips. So if you've never trimmed a turnip before, you cut off the greens. If you want to keep the greens, they're edible. You can keep them in the fridge, saute them like you would spinach, and then just cut the root part off, cut the top part off. Recipe calls for peeling them. I've never bothered. This is my garbage bowl that I keep handy. I've never bothered. And then what you're going to do, because the skin is so thin, it doesn't really matter. And what you're going to do is cut them into about 1/2-inch batons. So I slice it first into about 1/2-inch slices. That might be a little thin. That's okay. And then put them on your side, and then just about 1/2-inch thick. You want them to look like, and if you've seen them, you know exactly what these are. Like and they're going to be bright pink by the time we get everything into the jar. But then it's going to take 5 days. But I'll put a picture up so you'll see what they're supposed to look like by the end of it. All right, so let's keep doing this. And some of my turnips are a little bit small, but that's okay. I'm okay with small pickles. They're still going to be tasty. We've got some damage there. I'll just cut that off. We don't want to eat those. All right. I'm going to go give my salt a stir in a second after this guy. Okay. Let's go see what's happening over here. So it's still cloudy. You'll know as soon as it's completely dissolved because you're going to be able to see the bottom of the pot. And it won't be cloudy anymore. All right, let's keep going. And it'll take like 3 to 5 minutes. Not very long at all. All right, I'm going to try to go lengthwise just because they are smaller turnips, but that's okay. Done with that. This one I'm going to go this way. Keep going. And these are, you'll see these in pretty much any Middle Eastern dish, Lebanese, Armenian, like They're everywhere, and they're so delicious, and they're so easy to make. And this is the reason why we grow so many turnips at home, because they're so good. We very rarely eat them like a traditional, roasted turnips or mashed turnips or whatever. We make pickles with the turnips because it's so good. And once you try them, I guarantee you're going to be making these on repeat because they're so amazing. All right, we're almost done. And I'm making enough to fit in here along with the beet. And it's one small beet that the recipe calls for. Half inch. Oops. And you're going to be slicing the beet same size, so about half-inch sticks. The beet, you can eat the beet batons. It's not going to taste, and it's not going to have the same consistency as the turnips or as what you'd expect a beet to taste like, but it's perfectly edible if you wanted to eat them. My husband likes them when we pickle them this way, even though its function is essentially as a colorer. Is that a word? It is today. This one has some damage. Let me just see. Yeah, that might not be okay. This either. No, but this one is. He likes to eat the beet. He even eats the garlic. I stick to the turnips myself, but to each your own. I got damage here too. All right, let's take a peek at this. Oh, getting better. This is almost ready. And then what we have to do is just let it cool completely. I go for just a little bit longer. I cut these in half. Got one more to go. And it says the recipe calls for about 2 pounds of turnips. I couldn't tell you what 2 pounds of turnips looks like when I'm harvesting them from my garden. But I just get enough that I think would fill a large jar. And if we have extra, well, we have extra. Not the end of the world. Those are not things that I stress over. Okay. This is garbage. These are my garlic peels. That's the turnip. This we're going to add later. Beets. Same way. You cut these the same way. Cut the top off, cut the bottom off. Now, I'm supposed to peel this, so I'll do this quickly over my garbage bowl. And then I'll wash my hands after because it'll look like I've had an accident in the kitchen because I'll be all red. But that's the whole point, right? That's the proof that the beet is going to do its job once we put it in the jar with the turnips. All right, there's my peeled beet. Leave that over there. It is what it is. The things we do, the sacrifices we make for delicious food. I love the smell of beets. They smell so good. And you know what? Every once in a while, I'll crave beets. I don't know where that comes from. Maybe my body is craving or missing a nutrient that beets provides. Are those batons? Yes. But every once in a while, I'll just crave beets. They're so good. Okay, so all of the cutting, all of the prep is done. Let's go check what's happening over here. Okay, this is good. Turn this off. Now we have to wait for this to cool completely. I'm going to just move it off the heat. Let it cool. All of this is prepped. So I'm going to pause here, and then we'll come back once that's cooled, and then we'll assemble. And that's pretty much it. And then we'll leave the jar on the counter for 5 days with a little star next to that. I start checking at about 5 days just to see if it tastes. It's really the tanginess that I check for. If it's tangy enough, the longer it sits, the longer it marinates in there or ferments, the tangier it's going to be. So we'll pause here, and I'll be back once the once the brine is cooled. Okay, the water or the brine has cooled. We're going to add the vinegar to it, and then we're going to assemble our turnip pickles. So let me pop over here, add the vinegar to our pot. Give it a stir, although you don't really need to. It's over here. And then I'll just leave that there for now. Then we're going to assemble our pickles. So essentially, you're putting everything that we prepared previously into the container, and then we'll pour the liquid on top of it. And you're going to include the bay leaves that are still floating around in there. So what I normally do, I'll throw some beets at the bottom, fill everything else with the turnips, and this should fill up nicely. Pop these in, put the rest of the beets on the top, and you can like shove them in there. You want it to be, that's like a perfect fit. And then we want our garlic in there. And again, it's only for seasoning, so it doesn't have to be a fancy chop there for the garlic. And then we're going to pour the liquid on top of it. And let's go right ahead and do that. And I was just thinking, because these bay leaves are quite large, I'm trying to see if maybe I should just try to slip them down the side, or maybe I should just leave them on the top. Maybe I should just fold them and stick it in there. We want it to keep, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. They're huge. Look how big these bay leaves are. I buy a lot of my spices in packages from the international section of your supermarket. If you're lucky enough to have one, you should check there, because oftentimes it's cheaper than the regular aisle, and you get some interesting choices as well. Okay, now usually make a mess when I do this. I think what I'm going to do is pour this into a cup first, and then pour it properly. So give me a minute. I just don't want to make a mess anywhere. Okay, this is a 4 cup. So I've got 3 cups of water and 1 cup of vinegar. So I'm just going to do this over the sink, and then we'll pour it properly. Okay, we're good. I just don't want to make a mess all over the counter. Okay, so I basically just poured everything that was in the pot into here. It's like a little piece of bay leaf, I think, stem. All right, and then we're just going to pour it in. And then essentially, and I'm still making a mess. Okay, hold on. All right, hold on. You know what? I'm going to do this over the sink as well, and I have to go. I'll do it quickly. That way. And just pour it up until everything is covered. Here we go. So even if you have some left, that's totally fine. And just enough so that it won't interfere when you're going to screw on your cover. And I think that's going to be okay. Shove my bay leaf in there. That should be fine. Okay, so I'm going to leave this here. Let me get this out of the way. And of course, I got distracted. I don't remember what I was saying. So once this is filled, let's see if I overfill this. You know what? I'm just going to leave it on top. Did I overfill it? I did. Please hold while I remove some of the liquid. Okay, let's try this again. The last thing we want is for this to overflow. We want it to be a tight-fitting lid. You want them to be fully submerged, obviously. I'll clean all this up later. But take a look. You can already see the pink is starting to form. So I'm going to leave this on the counter for about 5 days, after which I'm going to test it, see if it's the tanginess that I like. And they taste better cold. So as soon as they're ready, I'm going to pop them in the fridge and just let them sit there. They'll last for about a month in the fridge, if they last that long. We're going to eat these really quickly. But it'll last for about a month in the fridge. I'm going to leave it on the counter for 5 days and then start tasting it to see if it's the way that I like it. And then probably after 5 days, I'll pop them in the fridge and then we'll just start eating them as soon as they're at that right tanginess or the right flavor that we like. And that's pretty much it. And then every once in a while, I make sure that it's a tight fitting lid, because what I'll do is even on the counter, on the jar, I'll flip it around just to make sure that the pink, look how pink it's already starting to get. So after 5 days, this whole thing is gonna look bright, bright pink. Here, take a look at this side. Look how pink it is. And that's just the beet. That's the beet's job, is to make everything look pink and bright, and super appetizing. And that's pretty much it, guys. So if you enjoyed, I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope you give them a try. They're so delicious. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't done it already, and I'll see you next time.